glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
C'était une bonne compétition qu'on va avoir. Let the doors be open quand on ouvre les portes. Everybody to get in and get ready. Just to remind everybody before we start statements by members, just to make sure that we keep them all to a minute. The last thing I want to do is shut people down on their statements. The last 2 days have gotten a little bit long, but great statements nonetheless. Statements by members. Déclaration des députés. The Honourable Member for Pickering-Uxbridge.
Mr. Speaker, this weekend, Muslims in Pickering-Uxbridge, across Canada and around the world will mark the beginning of the holy month of Ramadan, a time where Muslims will embark on a month-long journey of fasting and prayer. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to host iftars and joined our Muslim community at the Masjid Usman, where we are reminded that Ramadan also serves as a time to put the needs of others before our own. As Muslims fast during the day, they reflect on the values at the heart of Islam: service to others, gratitude, and compassion. These values continue to resonate now more than ever. Muslim Canadians have and continue to make invaluable contributions to our country, from serving on the front lines during COVID-19 to supporting numerous community initiatives, including collecting food during Ramadan for families in need. Mr. Speaker, may this month be a blessed one. Ramadan Kareem, Mubarak Alaikum Al-Shahar.
The Honourable Member for Saskatoon-Grasswood.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. The lineups have already started. Canadians will fill up their gas tanks today and tomorrow in advance of the latest price surge, taking Canadian gas prices to an all-time high. The increase of the federal carbon tax of $50 per ton will kick in April 1st. Along with the price of gas, the price of everyday essentials will also be going up. Inflation has already surged to 5.7%, the highest in decades, and it's climbing. Majority of Canadians already say they're struggling just to keep up. And there's no wonder, Mr. Speaker. Let's look at food prices. They're up 5.7%. Meat alone is up 10.1%, bread 7.5%, and fresh fruit is up 8.2%. And after Friday, Canadians will be paying even more. When will the NDP Liberal government realize that they are hurting all Canadians?
The Honourable Member for Halifax West.
Mr. Speaker, I'm privileged to rise with overwhelming pride to share news of a significant and historic celebration. The Lebanese Maronite Catholic at Our Lady of Lebanon Parish will officially launch the celebrations of the opening of our new church and Cedar Event Community Centre in Halifax West. The last weekend of April, the community will gather for a solemn mass and dinner banquet alongside His Excellency Bishop Paul Marwan Tabit. I want to acknowledge all those whose donations, generosity, time, effort, and vision went into realizing this tremendous accomplishment.
Our church is the heart of our religious, social, and cultural lives. And it is with deep appreciation that I thank all those who contributed over many years.
يجب أن تفتخر رعيتنا بها وتتحمس لها. هذا بيتكم الذي سيبقى لأجيال وأجيال أبنائكم بعد ذلك. أقدم أحر التهاني إلى الطائفة المارونية في كندا وفي كل إنحاء العالم على هذا الإنجاز الرائع. Merci beaucoup.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, I would like to pay tribute today to the commitment of Mr. Jean-Marie Giguère within the UPA of Morrissey. It's been almost a quarter of a century of dedication in the agricultural union, with 9 years as president, which we are celebrating today. He is passionate about horses, and Mr. Giguère has developed a great expertise in selecting the best magnificent horses, and he will now have more time to devote to his passion and his family. Last Sunday, Martin Marcouillet was elected to take over. He has held various positions within the UPA since 2004. And having already visited his kitchen to discuss agricultural projects, I can assure you that the destiny of the UPA in Mauricie is in good hands. As Mr. Giguère has rightly said, the future of agriculture is a societal project. Thank you both for your passion. The Honourable Member for Hochelaga. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On March 11th, I had the honor of representing Canada in Santiago, Chile, during the transfer of power of the new president, Gabriel Boric. At 34 years old, he becomes the youngest president of Chile at the head of a young government composed mostly of women. The new president closed his speech on the balcony of the Moneda with the famous words of Salvador Allende. Almost 50 years ago, here we are again, dear compatriots, opening wide avenues where free men and women will pass to build a better society. Boric's government is a wind of change that promises a more progressive, feminist, and inclusive future. In this symbolic year of 80 years of diplomatic relations between our two nations, the 25th anniversary of the Free Trade Agreement, and on the eve of the 50th anniversary of the commemoration of the coup d'etat, I wish this new government every success, and I look forward to working to strengthen Canada-Chile relations in the years ahead. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Desnethe, Misnipi, Churchill River.
Mr. Speaker, Joyce Willock, who turns 85 years young next month, has been named one of 9 recipients of Saskatchewan's volunteer medals. She has driven the Zamboni at the arena for over 30 years and is being recognized for her dedication and commitment to her community of Spiritwood. In addition to her duties at the arena, Joyce is also an honorary life member of the Spiritwood Skating Club, has been involved in both minor hockey and softball, is very active with the local seniors group, has helped the Spiritwood tourist booth, and is an active member of her church. Feeling overwhelmed by the honor, she said, "It's not something you set out to do, and it just blew me away. I thought it was a scam." When congratulated on the recent recognition recently, at the rink, of course, she replied, "There are so many people more deserving. A sign of a true volunteer. They enjoy what they're doing, therefore it does not feel much like work." Joyce's energy and enthusiasm are inspiring and make her a perfect role model. Mr. Speaker, I ask all members to join me today in recognizing a very special volunteer, Joyce Willock.
Here, here. The Honourable Member for Niagara Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Great Lakes are binational wheat treasures that drive our economy by creating 238,000 jobs and billions in economic activity. This fiscal support is buoyed by many social and environmental advantages, which jointly create a triple bottom line advantage for millions of residents, businesses, and communities, both within the basin and throughout this great nation. Despite these advantages, Mr. Speaker, this vital resource is desperate for our attention and our investments, and the time for meaningful action is now. Our government has been clear, both in our platforms and in the throne speech. The Great Lakes are a national priority. From fully funding our Great Lakes Treaty promises to ensuring the establishment of the Canada Water Agency and a freshwater action plan, the time is now to make sure the Great Lakes are no longer seen as Canada's forgotten coast. As we prepare for Budget 2022, we must seize the opportunity to work together, to protect and to keep the Great Lakes great, not just for Canadians today, but for future generations to enjoy and benefit from. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Ottawa Centre.
Thank you, Speaker. Just over 3 years ago, on March 10, 2019, an Ethiopian Airlines plane carrying 157 people, 18 of which were Canadians, crashed in Ethiopia en route to Nairobi. Some were going home or visiting loved ones, some perhaps starting new adventures, but many were humanitarians headed to the UN Environment Conference in Nairobi, like a constituent of mine, Stephanie Lacroix. When she wasn't in Ottawa, Stephanie spent time working for various NGOs in Southeast Africa. Stephanie loved her community unconditionally, and in doing so drew out the best versions of people. Come Stephanie.
Like Stephanie, all of the passengers of Flight ET-302 had hopes, dreams, and projects for the future that they will never be able to realize.
3 years, Speaker, we have not and will not forget them. My heart is with the families that continue to mourn the loss of their loved ones. Kale continue atra.
May they continue to be a source of inspiration for us all as we continue our efforts to create a better future for all.
Rest in peace, Stephanie, and to all those whose lives were lost. Thank you.
The honourable member for Stormont, Dundas, South Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, it is unbelievable how tone-deaf and out of touch the Minister of Housing is when it comes to the realities the average Canadian faces. He tries to brag about how good their housing plan is working over the last 5 years, as the average housing price in the country has doubled under their watch. Rents are skyrocketing with no end in sight, and a record number of Canadians are giving up on the idea of ever owning their own home. Their first-time homebuyers shared equity program is a failure and needs to be scrapped in favor of a new approach. But, Mr. Speaker, here's the biggest sign of disrespect. It was recently revealed that the minister rewarded staff at the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, who literally have the objective to exist for a single reason, to make housing more affordable for everyone in Canada. Mr. Speaker, he rewarded them with $40 million in performance bonuses. Mr. Speaker, instead of being petty and trying to suggest that anybody who questions his failed record doesn't care about homelessness or affordability, he should self-reflect. After all, Canadians have 40 million reasons why to question his judgment.
The honourable member for Pontiac. Mr. Speaker, when I was 8 or 9 years old, my father drove me to the University of Montreal, and he told me, "Look, Sophie, this is going to be your school later on." A world of opportunity opened up before me then. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, it's not the case for many young women. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, I would like to emphasize that education is a human right for all women in the world, including Afghan women. The Taliban's denial of an education for girls and women not only violates their human rights, but, as Michelle Bachelet says, exposes women to violence, poverty, and exploitation. We need to put more international pressure on the Taliban to open doors for girls. Thank you.
The honourable member for Prince Albert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This past Saturday, I had the pleasure of attending a fundraising supper at St. George's Ukrainian Catholic Church. The event, which included Ukrainian feasts, raised $12,000 for Come Back Alive, a charity supporting members of the Ukrainian forces with protective equipment, medical care, and mental health services. The charity began operating 7 years ago when tensions between Ukrainian forces and Russian-backed separatists first erupted. The event also featured a silent auction by the Veselka Ukrainian Cultural and Heritage Club, raising $3,500 towards the Canadian-Ukraine Foundation, which is involved in several humanitarian projects in Ukraine. Mr. Speaker, residents of my constituency stand with Ukraine, the people of Ukraine, the over 1 million Canadians with ties to Ukraine. They are our neighbours, they are our friends, they are our family. They are an integral part of Saskatchewan. Their concerns are our concerns. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Calgary Rocky Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, 5 weeks ago, Putin unleashed a brazen attack on Russia's sovereign, peaceful and democratic neighbour, Ukraine. Since then, the world has witnessed murderous Russian attacks on civilians and awe-inspiring acts of dauntless courage and determination by Ukrainians. Putin's war of conquest threatens the comfortable peace that Canada has taken for granted for decades. We must immediately and significantly increase our capacity to defend ourselves and our allies. The sovereignty of Canada's Arctic land, water, and airspace is threatened. Democracies from the Baltic to Taiwan fear invasion, while Ukrainians are fighting for their very lives and freedom. We're witnessing the undoing of 30 years of progress toward peace, prosperity, collective security, law, order, and democracy as Putin pummels Ukrainian cities into dust. Canada must do more to help stop Putin now, because the price of stopping a murderous dictator always goes up.
The honourable member for Châteauguay-Lacolle. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I would like to take this opportunity to share a wonderful story of perseverance and collaboration between the communities of Châteauguay and Ganawake. This joint effort, led by the Fédération Nationale des OMH for Montérégie and the Eastern Townships and the Band Council, led last Friday, led to the announcement of the creation of 31 housing units in an unused motel for people experiencing homelessness or at the risk of experiencing it in both communities. This project was made possible thanks to our Rapid Housing Initiative. The health partners, our government, and the Quebec government supported this wonderful project that can serve as a model for addressing housing issues across the country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, tomorrow is the International Transgender Day of Visibility, a day to celebrate our transgender neighbours, friends, and family members. Trans individuals overcome formidable challenges. They face pressure to conform or change to please others. They are forced to maneuver our healthcare system and our government services that often refuse to see them for who they truly are. And they are too often subjected to hate and violence. The International Transgender Day of Visibility is not just about seeing transgender people and understanding the sometimes brutal challenges they face. The Trans Day of Visibility is an opportunity to say thank you. Thank you for leading a human rights revolution. You are heroes. Thank you for not giving up. You are not alone. Thank you for being you. You are power. Let me say it today. Let us repeat it tomorrow. And let us remember it every day. Trans men are men. Trans women are women.
The honourable member for Shefford. Mr. Speaker, on March 27th, the Surf the Wave Challenge came to an end. There were 21 days of kindness, taking care of oneself and others, and spreading messages of compassion and mutual aid with the goal of helping everyone's mental health. This initiative was set up by the MRC for Haute-Yamaska, the City of Granbury, and the Community Centre of Haute-Yamaska, the Granby Cégep, and the Users Committee of Haute-Yamaska. In short, many people set up this project that came from Haute-Yamaska, bringing together more than 75 partners from different backgrounds to raise awareness of the collateral effects of the pandemic in order to strengthen the resilience of the community and people facing this new pandemic reality. I am proud to wear this button that was meant to create a great wave of kindness, and positivity in our living environments. After 2 years of COVID-19, let's hope Surfing the Wave will spread elsewhere in Quebec. Congratulations to all those who worked on this project. Thank you.
Edmonton Riverbend.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, the Environment Minister released his new greenhouse gas emissions reduction plan, which is being called by some in Alberta as insane. This new plan is a direct attack on the energy sector, on Alberta, and on Canada. Even the far left-leaning opposition party from Alberta has called the Liberal NDP government's emission goals a fantasy. Mr. Speaker, the energy policies introduced by this government are detrimental to our economy. Yet, on April 1st, the government will also be increasing the carbon tax. Canadian families are struggling with the highest levels of inflation in 30 years. They are struggling to pay their bills, to buy food, and commute. These are essential needs that Liberals supported by the NDP are making more and more unaffordable. This government needs to stop attacking Alberta's energy sector, and they need to stop making life more unaffordable.
The honourable member for Dartmouth Cole Harbour.
Mr. Speaker, today I am rising in honor of those affected by cancer, in honor of those who give hope to others battling cancer, in honor of folks like Jim and Judy Edgar, whose incredible vision to create something meaningful, whose hard work to create a special place for others, has led to the beautiful Daffodil Garden for cancer survivors in my riding of Dartmouth Cole Harbour. The daffodil, a resilient little bulb that survives in the frigid ground throughout a harsh winter and emerges in spring with a bright burst of yellow, is a symbol of strength, courage, and hope. April is Daffodil Month, and hardworking volunteers like the Edgars are helping the Canadian Cancer Society with their annual Daffodil campaign in support of Canadians living with cancer. Soon, the Daffodil Garden for cancer survivors will turn into a vibrant sea of yellow, a beautiful symbol of hope. Mr. Speaker, I'm asking all Canadians to join me in supporting Daffodil Month to help raise awareness and to help support Canadians affected by cancer. Thank you.
Oral questions. Question orale. L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. The Minister of Finance finally announced an important date. April 7th, we will see the presentation of the very first NDP budget in Canadian history, Mr. Speaker. We can expect to see three things: higher spending, higher taxes, unlimited deficit. It will no doubt be a dark day for all Canadians who didn't vote for that and who are currently struggling to make ends meet. My question to the Prime Minister is this. Were former Liberal Prime Minister and the former Finance Minister Paul Martin consulted on this first NDP budget? The Honourable Minister and Associate Minister of Finance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Conservatives are continuing to talk down the Canadian economy, but allow me to share with you a few very important facts. First of all, StatsCan published the fact that our GDP has increased of 6.7%. Our economy will be the strongest next year among the G7. This year it's second strongest. And we have recovered more jobs than before the pandemic. The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Let's talk about it. A secret agreement was signed to put in place a $200 billion spending. That's the NDP's plan. But Jean Chrétien said that we had to reduce the deficit. Paul Martin said we have to do what we can afford. Have they all taken out NDP membership cards, or there are still fiscally responsible Liberals in that government? Mr. Speaker, this government has made historic investments in the lives of Canadians, in the lives of Quebecers, in all communities, in all the provinces, in order to avoid the worst depression since the 1930s. This side of the House voted for C8, for rapid testing, $100 million, for better ventilation in our schools, to help businesses. When will the other side vote for C8? The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, I suspect there are many Liberal members who were not consulted with regard to this NDP budget. Inflation is at a record high. The price of gas is suffocating small and medium-sized businesses. Families struggle to pay for groceries. In 1995, the Minister of Finance, Paul Martin, said, "For our economy to work, we must redefine the role of government in our economy to reflect the ability to pay and the priorities of our citizens." Does the Minister of Finance now recognize that selling her soul to buy a majority will hurt our economy and all Canadians? Mr. Speaker, it's refreshing to see the other side talk about taxes after their bad record after 10 years in government in this side of the House. So we are working for Canadians. We are on the eve of voting for C8, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we have introduced child care benefits to help Canadian families, increased the pension for seniors. Here, we are working. On the other side, we don't know what is happening.
Nicola.
Mr. Speaker, the SPENDP Liberal Coalition has never seen a rural tax it didn't like, regardless of how inflationary it would be. Take, for example, making an energy rating mandatory when selling a home. The Ontario Real Estate Association calls this a crazy thing to do in the middle of a historic housing affordability crisis, as it will only increase the cost of buying a home. Why is the SPENDP Liberal Coalition even thinking about doing this crazy thing that will only price out more millennials and first-time home buyers?
The Honourable Minister of Housing.
We have prioritized giving more Canadians access to the dream of home ownership. We're moving forward with the Housing Accelerator Fund, which will increase housing supply across the spectrum. We are also moving forward with a rent-to-own program that will turn more Canadian renters into homeowners. We have also moving forward with a 1% tax on non-recreational property owned by foreigners. What did the party opposite do with respect to that measure? They voted against it, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola.
Mr. Speaker, the only thing progressive about this Spend EP Liberal coalition is that people are progressively paying more and more for everything. Inflation bleeds the purchasing power of every single Canadian. Now, the Governor of the Bank of Canada has confirmed that the carbon tax is inflationary. Some point to rebates, but the Parliamentary Budget Officer says the government will collect more than it rebates to Canadians. Yep. Will the Spend EP Liberal coalition finally give millions of Canadians a break from their inflationary policies and cancel their April 1st carbon tax hike?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's no surprise to hear from the Conservatives when their top candidate for leader, the member for Carleton, is campaigning against real action on climate change. The PBO's report confirms that the price of pollution has a progressive impact that gives 8 out of 10 Canadians more money through the climate action incentive back into their pockets. And in this last week, Mr. Speaker, we announced climate incentives in Ontario, Alberta, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan. While that side of the aisle fights each other, we fight for Canadians.
The first 3 questions went great. The first 3 questions were great. Everybody was listening. It was awesome.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, there's been a lot of talk of what there is in the agreement between the NDP and the Liberals, but we also have to talk about what is not in it. We're talking about seniors. They've been abandoned in this agreement at a time when they are suffering the most from the increasing cost of groceries. There is nothing to protect their income to 2025, particularly those between 65 and 74 years of age who have also been deprived of the old age security increase. This agreement sets in stone the creation of 2 classes of seniors. I want to know, Mr. Speaker, who abandoned seniors? The Liberals, the NDP, or both?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Seniors.
Speaker, our government has delivered on its commitment to increase OAS by 10% for all seniors aged 75 and up.
That's right.
This helps with Canadians' extra needs later in life. Mr. Speaker, older seniors face increased care expenses and are at greater risk of running out of savings. As seniors age, their health and home care costs rise, all while they're more likely to be unable to work, have disabilities, or be widowed. Seniors are living longer today, Mr. Speaker. Life expectancy for Canadians has increased by 7 years to 82 in 2019 from 75 in 1980. We've got the backs of our Canadian seniors, Mr.
Speaker.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, you don't need to be good at math to see that when the cost of living increases, the first to suffer are those on a fixed income. We're talking about seniors between 65 and 74 for whom the NDP and the Liberals refused to give an increase in OAS. Food prices have risen by 7.4%. For those 75 and up whose pension increased by 10%, it's not as bad. But for those seniors under 74 years of age, they are foods they can no longer afford. That's their reality. Why did the Liberals and the NDP sign an agreement that abandoned those seniors?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, our government's priority has always been to support seniors, especially those most vulnerable. When it comes to supporting seniors, we are proud of our record. One of the first things we did for seniors is to restore the age of eligibility of OAS back from 65 from 67, which was something that was moved forward by the Conservatives. We raised the GIS for single seniors. We introduced a special tax-free payment for those who receive OAS and GIS. We provided a one-time $500 payment to seniors 75 and plus, and this year, Mr. Speaker, we're increasing the OAS by 10% for them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Burnaby South.
When the cost of living goes up, it hurts families, but it certainly benefits some corporations like big banks. In the upcoming budget, the Liberal government has a choice. Will they side with families and get them the help they need, or will they side with large corporations and continue to protect their record profits?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, building a fair and more inclusive economy that works for all Canadians has been a central focus of our government from the beginning. And while we appreciate the intent behind the previous NDP motion and this honourable member's question, let us remember all the things that we have done for the middle class. We provided more pandemic supports for Canadians and businesses in C2 they voted against. We raised taxes on the wealthiest 1% and lowered them for the middle class. We stopped the Canada Child Benefit from going to millionaires and benefiting 9 out of 10 Canadians. There's much that we've done for Canadians for affordability. We'll keep doing more.
The honourable member for Burnaby South.
When the cost of living arises, it hurts families, but it helps big businesses like banks. In the upcoming budget, the government has a choice. Will it help families in need, or will it continue to protect the profits of major corporations? Mr. Speaker, I would say that we're bearing a fair and more inclusive economy that works for all Canadians. This was at the heart of our work and has been since we formed government. And we have to remember, Mr. Speaker, that all the measures that we put in place to make life more affordable for Canadians, we have provided more support throughout the pandemic for Canadians through C2. We increased taxes for the 1% and lowered them for the middle class. We have increased the Canada Child Benefit. That is making life more affordable, Mr. Speaker.
For Calgary, Mindapore.
Mr. Speaker, while this government drones on about making life more affordable for Canadians, they ignore their self-selective, industry-killing ways of tax and spend. They'll claim to offer you affordable daycare and housing, but you'll have to lose your job and your neighbours to get it. In the meantime, you'll buy less at the grocery store and put off that next trip to the gas station. So could the government show one small act of mercy to its citizens and axe the carbon tax?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it gives me great pleasure to answer my colleague's question because, in fact, we now have national childcare across the country. Mr. Speaker, in provinces like Alberta, that means families have already received a 50% reduction in fees. That's a huge help when it comes to paying for gas, when it comes to paying for groceries. It means more money in the pockets of Canadians to do what they need to do to support Canadians, and this government will be there for Canadians every single time.
The Honourable Member for Calgary, Mindapore.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this government promises the moon and the stars, but they will take the shirts off the backs of Canadians to pay for it. They tempt Canadians with shiny things in the window, but they can't cash the checks they write. The losers, Mr. Speaker, are everyday Canadians. You can drop off your kids at daycare, but their tummies will be empty, and you better be in walking distance because Canadians can't afford gas. So will the government find it in their hearts to show one small act of compassion and axe the carbon tax?
The Honourable Minister of Families.
Mr. Speaker, I have heard from parents in Alberta who talk about how important the reduction in fees in childcare is, how it means that they are able to look for full-time employment because now they're able to afford it. Now it means that they can pay for the things that they couldn't pay for their children. Mr. Speaker, we know that affordable daycare is not only good for children and families, it's also good for the economy, and there's 25 years of experience in Quebec to show just that. This is a program that more than pays for itself, and it is good for Canadians, it's good for our children, and it's good for the economy.
The Honourable Member for Sturgeon River Parkland.
Mr. Speaker, it's tax time in Canada and millions of Canadians are filing their tax returns. Last year, many Canadians received their carbon tax rebate in full, but this year they have to wait 3 more months just to get a quarter of what they received last year. With inflation at generational highs, the Liberals' move to quarterly payments means less money for Canadian families. Canadians want their money now. Why is this government nickel and diming Canadians on their carbon tax rebates?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the Honourable Member for the question. And while the members on the other side have been fixated on April 1st, Mr. Speaker, I have been fixated on July 15th. And of course, Mr. Speaker, that's the date when Canadians will receive the climate action rebate checks. Mr. Speaker, it will be a double payment. And Mr. Speaker, they will receive these quarterly checks for months to come. Mr. Speaker, we're fighting climate change and we're promoting affordability.
The honourable member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
The PBO has put to rest the NDP Liberal government's bogus claim that the carbon tax is revenue neutral. The St. Albert Legion wrote to me and said that the carbon tax will cost them $6,000 this year. That's $6,000 that could have been spent to support veterans in my community. So, when will the NDP Liberal government just admit that the carbon tax isn't revenue neutral and axe the tax?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't know where the honourable member is getting his numbers from, but under our plan, the majority of families will continue to receive more money back in a rebate than they pay, Mr. Speaker. You've heard these numbers before from our Associate Finance Minister. This year, $600 in Ontario, $700 in Manitoba, $1,100 in Saskatchewan and Alberta. This is more money in the pockets of Canadians, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint-Laurent. Mr. Speaker, we are 2 days from April 1st. If this government doesn't want to know what's happening in Canada on April 1st, let me tell you, in 2 days, the Liberal carbon tax will increase. It's been weeks that we've been asking the government to give Canadians a break, to give them some air, not to increase the Liberal carbon tax. There are 2 days remaining. Will the government understand and show the goodwill behind this and give Canadians a break? Do not increase the Liberal carbon tax. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, and as I've said before in this House, pricing pollution is recognized as one of the most efficient ways to fight climate change, and it will not only reduce pollution, Mr. Speaker, but it will drive innovation to help create the clean growth economy and the jobs of tomorrow, Mr. Speaker. And once again, as the Parliamentary Budget Officer has said, 8 out of 10 families will be better off. And, Mr. Speaker, those families will receive those checks quarterly starting July 15th.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint-Laurent. Well, Mr. Speaker, here's the reality. For months and months, inflation in Canada has been rising. Inflation is now over 5.7%. All Canadian families are paying more today than they paid a few months ago. And in 2 days, in 2 short days, the Liberals will increase the Liberal carbon tax. Can they understand the logic? This will increase inflation and Canadian families will pay even more.
Yes. Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, let's talk about the facts. First of all, we reduced middle-class taxes twice and increased taxes for the richest 1%. The Conservatives voted against. Second, we created the Canadian Child Benefit Index to inflation. Conservatives voted against it. Third, we gave seniors over the age of 75 a one-time payment of $500. What did the Conservatives do? They voted against it. We take action, and we don't know what they're doing. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the government announced measures to accelerate the processing of Ukrainian refugee applications, and this partially responds to demands by the Bloc Québécois. But there is an elephant in the room. The most important measure, planes, is missing. Even if the announcements would magically resolve the 60,000 applications, refugees will be quickly disappointed to see they're fighting for the same few seats on a plane for at least $1,000 per ticket. What families in need is not to be approved by Canada, it's to get to Canada. When will there be an airlift? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, once again, I want to thank my colleague for the question and for this collaboration since the beginning of the war in Ukraine. Mr. Speaker, we are working with all our partners, including airlines, and what we have recently done is that we have loosened the biometric measures to allow 3 cohorts to come more quickly into Canada. We will be there for Ukrainians before and after. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, this is a partial response to an administrative problem, not a response to a human problem. We need to get those families. They have fled war. They don't all have the money to pay 3 or 4 plane tickets. Mothers left their homes about a month ago with traumatized children. Hearing that their file is being processed is not going to reassure them. It will be the day they can set down their suitcases in their kids' new bedrooms. That's where they're going to feel safe. That's the reality. When will the minister charter flights and go and get them? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Immigration. Mr. Speaker, I would like to tell the House that we have welcomed more than 12,000 Ukrainians to date here in Canada. Since the beginning, we have been here. And perhaps just to remind the House the measures. In fact, Mr. Speaker, we have launched a new program. We have loosened the biometric requirements. We have also sent more people, officers, in order to process the applications. With regard to the settlement centres, we will continue to be there. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Grand Prairie Mackenzie.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians in rural and northern communities are disproportionately disadvantaged by this Prime Minister's carbon tax. New studies by the Parliamentary Budget Office and the Bank of Canada have confirmed that Canadians are paying more in this tax than they receive in rebates, and that this tax is contributing to the out-of-control inflation. Knowing that so many rural and northern families and seniors are already struggling to pay for the essentials like groceries, home heating, and fuel, why would the Prime Minister break his election promise and increase this punitive tax yet again?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would reiterate again that pollution pricing works not only to reduce pollution, but to drive innovation and help create the clean economy of tomorrow, which is jobs, Mr. Speaker. And I know the honourable member wants to create jobs in this country, and Mr. Speaker, this means billions in economic development and good jobs today and tomorrow. We know where the economy of the world is headed, Mr. Speaker. It's the low-carbon energy. Mr. Speaker, Conservatives are stuck in the past. We're looking towards the future.
The Honourable Member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington.
The cost of everything is rising at historic rates, and Canadians are at a breaking point. Seniors in HLNA and across this country do not want a handout. They want the dignity and respect that they have earned. They want to regain pride in being Canadian. They need a government that works for them, not against them. Mr. Speaker, when will this Prime Minister stop dodging questions in this House and tell working-class Canadians and low-income seniors what he's doing to fix this abysmal economic situation he helped create?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the honourable member for the question. Seniors have worked all their lives, and they deserve to be safe and financially secure later in life. Our Liberal government is delivering on our promise to increase OAS by 10% for those 75 and older, strengthening support for all Canadians later in life. Since 2015, Mr. Speaker, our Liberal government has restored the age of eligibility for OAS to 65, increased GIS for single seniors, and strengthened CPP for future retirees, which was mirrored by the QPP. During the pandemic, we took action to provide seniors needed support with special tax-free payments and a GST top-up. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Charleswood, St. James, Assiniboia, Headingley.
Mr. Speaker, constituents in my riding can barely afford to fill up their cars. They spend more and more of their income on the most basic of necessities. The Liberals say they're working hard to deliver real change for Canadians. The truth is just the opposite. Canadians are giving all their hard-earned change to the Liberals. Mr. Speaker, can the Minister of Finance show just a little compassion, give Canadians a break, and promise no new tax increases in the April 7th budget?
The Honourable Minister of Tourism and Associate Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And while we have to wait just over a week to learn the full contents of the budget, I'm very happy to share today some facts that speak directly to affordability. Fact, a single mom with 2 kids will receive $13,600 from the Canada Child Benefit. Fact, the average family in Saskatchewan will get almost $1,000 in their carbon price rebate. Fact, seniors received $500 this summer, and we're increasing OAS by 10%. Fact, a student will save more than $3,000. Those are the facts.
Okay. The Honourable Member for Edmonton Riverbend.
Conservatives have started the Housing Task Force, Mr. Speaker. Want to know why? It's because this government continues to fail Canadians when it comes to the price of homes. One example, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to first-time homebuyers program, they've only been able to change the criteria 3 times in the last 2 years. One other example, Mr. Speaker, the shared equity mortgage program. They've only had 9 applications in a 3 years and a 5-year program. They have doubled the average price of homes in Canada, Mr. Speaker. How can this minister continue to say his programs work?
The Honourable Minister of Housing.
I'll just give the honourable member one example of the large national housing strategy.
Let's just find a little bit of. There you go. The Honourable Minister of Housing.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member asked which programs work. I'll just give him one small example that is making a significant impact on the lives of his constituents. The Canada Housing Benefit is helping 35,000 households with rent in Alberta. That's a program in the National Housing Strategy. But perhaps the honourable member may speak to some of his colleagues. The member for Stormont Dundas South Glengarry believes that we should stop investing in affordable housing through the National Housing Strategy, and that we should stop investing in the first-time homebuyer incentive. He should speak to his caucus members who don't believe in federal investments in housing.
The Honourable Member for Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, the climate crisis is putting everything we value at risk. Yet the Liberals' emissions reduction plan clearly doesn't meet the urgency of the crisis. Inadequate ambition, massive subsidies to unproven carbon capture technology. This government continues to put the interests of big oil and gas above protecting the workers who are impacted by the climate crisis. Climate delay won't cut it. We must act now. With the upcoming budget, will the Liberals finally take the climate crisis seriously?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the Honourable Member for the questions. And I'm not sure if the Honourable Member caught the emissions reduction plan announcement yesterday, but it's a practical roadmap to fight climate change and create good jobs as we build a clean economy. Here's a few of the highlights, Mr. Speaker. We're going to make it easier and more affordable for...
Order! I mean, hold on. The Parliamentary Secretary can wait a second here. I mean, really? Okay. Let's all restart here. The Parliamentary Secretary can restart the answer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm really excited about our emissions reduction plan, as you can see, and just a reminder to the Honourable Member that we are going to be investing in energy retrofit for greener homes and buildings, establish a greener electricity grid. We are going to reduce oil and gas emissions, which I know is important to the Honourable Member, and very, very importantly, Mr. Speaker, we're going to support our farmers in agriculture to be more sustainable, and we're going to put more money in their pockets, Mr. Speaker. It's a great plan, Mr. Speaker. It's an action plan.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton-Griesbach.
American student loan payments have been frozen since the pandemic started. Meanwhile, in Canada, people only got 6 months of relief from crushing monthly payments. In fact, the federal government collected $3.2 billion in student loan payment the following year. Oh my God. It's bad enough that young people have had to deal with cuts from Conservative premiers during the pandemic, but it's truly shameful that the Liberal government also collected billions from them. Canadians deserve better. When will the Liberal government start tackling affordability by cancelling student debt?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to advise the member that until at least next March of 2024, students do not have to pay debt on their student loan payments, and we made a commitment, which we will make good on, Mr. Speaker, to eliminate permanently student debt for students so that they can go off into their careers in a position to excel, to flourish, and to prosper like every Canadian has a right to.
The Honourable Member for Hamilton East, Stony Creek.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Citizens of my community of Hamilton East, Stony Creek were clear in the last election that they wanted a government that would invest in public transit. Once initiated by the province, the completion of projects like the Confederation GO Station in Hamilton will spur economic development and reduce highway congestion. Mr. Speaker, our government knows that safe and affordable transit is the key that unlocks social economic opportunities in our communities. Could the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs, Infrastructure and Communities provide an update to this House on the critical investments we are making in public transit infrastructure? Thank you.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague from Hamilton East Stony Creek for this important question. Our government has made unprecedented investments in public transit. Last year, our government announced approximately $12.1 billion in new investments for the GTHA to build a new and expand existing transit networks. Thanks to the advocacy of that member and his hard work, important work is currently underway for critical projects such as the GO Transit Expansion Project, which will provide important service and connections to many communities, and we will continue to invest in transit across Canada.
The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, in 2015, the Prime Minister promised not to buy the F-35s, even though he knew the Canadian industry had invested hundreds of millions and had to keep their commitment to Lockheed Martin. Even after announcing this week that he'll begin negotiations for the purchase of the F-35s, the Prime Minister is still keeping the Canadian industry in limbo. He hasn't committed to the F-35s, only to dialogue with the manufacturer. When will he realize the aerospace industry has waited long enough? The Honourable Minister. I'd like to thank my colleague for the question.
Complex procurement. It represents the most significant investment in the RCAF in over 30 years. We did not go to sole source based on speculation. We entered into a competitive process based on evidence and facts. It's imperative that we get this right, and that's why we took the time we needed to make the best decisions for Canadians and for our Air Force. We have ensured that from the beginning that the process was done in a responsible way. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member. The F-35s are a perfect illustration of how lightly the Prime Minister takes our security and our role in the world. In 2015, when he promised not to choose the F-35s, he was putting his political aspirations ahead of the needs of the armed forces. And when he wasted $360 million on Australia's rusty F-18s, once again, he was just buying time. Even the experts say the Liberals' military procurement strategy is ideologically driven. Can the Prime Minister shorten the dialogue and get this important strategic purchase done? The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Let me assure the member opposite that we are ensuring that our Canadian Armed Forces have the equipment they need to protect Canadians. On Monday, when we announced the procurement of the 88 fighter jets and the top-ranked bidder, this brought us one step closer to a new fleet of state-of-the-art fighter jets for our Royal Canadian Air Force. This is going to ensure that our pilots have the most effective tools that they need to do their job, to defend our country, to defend our Arctic, and to participate in NORAD and NATO. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for South Surrey Right Rock.
Mr. Speaker, on Monday, the minister stated costing is being further refined on the F-35 purchase. After 7 years and $2 billion spent on upgrades of old and used fighter jets, the minister knows that there is nothing to refine in terms of price. As a consortium member, you have the right to buy the F-35 for the same price as the U.S. government during whatever fiscal year you opt into. The government waited another 4 months when it knew who won. Now it is playing for time, saying the price must be refined. Why?
Good question. The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me assure the member opposite again that we have ensured and we will continue to ensure that we are taking the steps needed to select the right fighter at the right price with the right benefits for the Canadian Armed Forces. This is the most significant investment in the RCAF in 30 years. As we continue to move through this process, the details on costing will be further refined. And as I have said, we will select the right aircraft at the right price for the RCAF. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton West.
Replacement fighter jets, delayed. Replacement pistols for the Army, delayed.
Polar icebreaker, delayed. Fixed-wing search and rescue, delayed. Arctic offshore patrol ships, delayed. Surface combatants, delayed. Joint supply ship, delayed. Rusted out second-hand jets from Australia, on time. When did the Liberals decide to go from strong, secure, and engaged to delayed, weak, and second-hand?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, this is somewhat humorous. Unlike the Conservatives, who cut billions from defence, we are providing our CAF members with the equipment they need to keep Canadians safe. We're moving to finalize the 88 new fighter jets. We're delivering the first Canadian-built ship in 20 years. We're acquiring 6 Arctic offshore patrol vessels, 2 of which are in the water, 1 of which has circumnavigated the North American continent. We are delivering rifles for our Rangers, and when it comes to procurement, I would take our record over theirs any day.
The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, the greenhouse gas reduction plan released yesterday can be summed up as half measures and wishful thinking. They're still talking about potential reductions, not hard targets, and they consider it making progress to be exploring legislative approaches to support a durable price on carbon pollution. Seriously, Mr. Speaker, it sounds a lot more like it's all about oil than about a climate emergency. Why is this government still devoting all its efforts to hiding Canada's oil problem instead of fixing it? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, it's disappointing to see the Bloc playing partisan politics. The Bloc should understand the importance of working with Quebecers to create new opportunities and jobs that will be sustainable. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. In his greenhouse gas reduction plan, the minister refers to reducing carbon intensity. That's tons of emissions relative to GDP. But that is climate evasion. It's actual emissions that need to be reduced. Next thing you know, this government will be trying to sell us on green oil. Green oil is like a flying pig, the Philosopher's Stone, or a vegetarian vampire. There's no such thing. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the Honourable Member for the question and just relate to her that our government is working on many fronts to address oil and gas emissions. On top of the cap to reduce oil and gas sector emissions, we're implementing the Clean Fuel Standard to accelerate the adoption of cleaner fuel. We're putting a price on carbon pollution, as I mentioned many times in this House. And, Mr. Speaker, importantly, we're phasing out fossil fuel subsidies 2 years ahead of schedule.
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
Well, it's only been 1 week since the NDP-Liberal marriage, and already there's trouble in paradise. The Minister of Natural Resources wants to produce more oil and gas. The Minister of Environment wants less. Meanwhile, the NDP Deputy Prime Minister, well, he's just silent on the matter. Wow! Look, folks, you can't sit and stand at the same time. So my question is simple. On behalf of Canadians, who in this place is telling the truth?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't know if the Honourable Member caught the emissions reduction plan yesterday that we announced, but it is a roadmap for Canada to reach our ambitious climate targets. And Mr. Speaker, it's getting great reviews. I would just cite a number of them. The Cement Association of Canada, the emission reduction plan provides cement industry with predictability, the oil sands pathways. With positive industry and government collaboration, Canada has an incredible opportunity to help provide for global energy security while being a leader in producing clean energy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has the most environmentally and socially responsible oil and gas in the world. After almost 7 years of the NDP Liberals stopping pipelines and blocking exports, the Natural Resource Minister now says Canada can boost production by 300,000 barrels per day to offset dictator oil. But the Environment Minister's new plan risks 13,000 Alberta jobs and will cut production by 235,000 barrels per day. The NDP Liberal anti-energy agenda has already killed hundreds of thousands of jobs and cost Canada billions. So, which one of these ministers should Canadians believe?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, the emissions reductions plan is ambitious, it's achievable, it's a clear and robust plan that will get us to net zero by 2050. When we talk about oil imports, our oil imports have actually reduced. In fact, if the member's interested, the Canada Energy Regulator has said that we've imported the lowest amount of crude oil since 1988. And that, the majority of it comes from the United States, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Lakeland.
Well, I was talking about exports, but the reality is Canadian energy producers reduced emissions and increased production over the last 20 years. But the NDP Liberals have done everything they can to try to shut them down. The Liberals now claim to support hiking production, but they also plan to cut it. And the NDP Deputy Prime Minister, well, he doesn't want any future oil and gas at all. Uncertainty crushes jobs and investment. The only thing that's clear is that the left hand doesn't know what the other left hand is actually doing. So I'll try again. Who's actually in charge of killing Canadian jobs?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, what we have is...
Let me just wait a second here. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, what we have is in fact one of the most robust and detailed climate reduction plans in the world. That provides certainty to all Canadians and industry. When we talk about the exports to support our European allies in this time of trouble, that's what they asked for, short-term assistance. But they have also clearly said that in the midterm and long term, they're working towards renewables. It's in their 10-point plan from the International Energy Agency. We are working with them to support them into the future and right now in their time of need.
The honourable member for Saint-Laurent.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, like many Canadians, I'm proud of our Canadian Armed Forces, and I want them to have the equipment they need to perform the difficult tasks we require of them. That's why I was pleased to see our government announce we would be entering into final negotiations to procure 88 fighter jets. Mr. Speaker, can the Minister of National Defence tell the House what this investment means for Canadians? The Honourable Minister of National Defence. I'd like to thank the member for Saint-Laurent for her question. Canada is getting closer to delivery of new fighter jets to support the Royal Canadian Air Force in defending Canada and our allies. This will also create opportunities for Canadians, including in Bagotville, where we're investing in modernizing our infrastructure to accommodate this new fleet. This is good news for Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Abbotsford.
Well, inflation is roaring out of control. Families don't know how they're going to pay for groceries or tank up their cars to get their kids to school. The dream of home ownership is now over for millions of Canadians. Over! Ever since this finance minister took charge, the cost of living in Canada has skyrocketed. Things aren't getting better, they're actually getting worse. When will this minister tell Canadians how she plans to fight inflation? And will her next NDP Liberal budget include such a plan?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, The Conservatives continue to talk down the Canadian economy and spin economic fiction. Let us deal in facts. Stats Can show that our GDP grew by 6.7% in Q4. Our economy is the second fastest growing in the G7 this year. We're poised to be the fastest growing economy in the G7 next year. And despite the challenges of Omicron, our economy, the GDP, is back to pre-pandemic levels. The other sides can spin economic fiction. Those are the facts, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Abbotsford.
Well, fact, Mr. Speaker, inflation is raging across our country, and Canadians are being left far behind. They can't afford groceries. They can't afford gas to take their kids to hockey or music lessons. The cost of everything is through the roof. So we know paychecks don't go as far as they used to. We know Canadians are struggling to make ends meet. Yet this minister refuses to act. This is her mess. She's the finance minister.
Est-ce n'a pas de traduction qui se passe en même temps? Translation that'll happen. I will let the member start again. The honourable member for Abbotsford.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Inflation is raging across our country. That is a fact, and Canadians are being left behind. They can't afford groceries, they can't afford gas to take their kids to hockey lessons or music lessons. The cost of everything is through the roof. We know paychecks don't go as far as they used to. We know Canadians are struggling to make ends meet. Yet this minister refuses to act. This is her mess. She is Canada's finance minister. Will her budget include a plan to fight Canada's affordability crisis?
The honourable minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for his question, and we will find out in due course what's in the budget. This last weekend, I was on the doors in my riding of Edmonton Centre, and both moms and dads thanked me, thanked the Minister of Families, Children and Social Development for passing the child care agreement with Alberta. And just this week, we have a deal in Ontario. Every province, every territory covered, thousands of dollars back in the pockets of everyday Canadians. That's leadership, Mr. Speaker. That's affordability.
The honourable member for Simcoe North.
Mr. Speaker, do you know who benefits from inflation? The government. Next week, the federal government is going to announce record revenues from higher taxes, higher oil prices, and yes, inflation. Canadians want to know how this Liberal NDP government is going to use this windfall. Are they going to provide relief to Canadians through tax holidays? Are they going to reduce the size of the deficit? Or will they just spend more money, which everyone agrees is going to create more inflation?
The Honourable Minister of Tourism and Associate Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, our record is clear when it comes to supporting the most vulnerable Canadians with the cost of living. We introduced the Canada Child Benefit, which is indexed for inflation, and lifted 300,000 children out of poverty. Our government increased the guaranteed income supplement, which is also indexed to inflation, which has helped over 900,000 seniors. From 2015, when we formed government, to 2019, Mr. Speaker, we raised 1.38 million Canadians out of poverty. That is leadership. That is focus on affordability.
The honourable member for Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, in my riding of Richmond Hill, we have numerous organizations that work tirelessly to provide housing for vulnerable population. The staff at Blue Door, an emergency housing provider in York Region, have played an instrumental role in supporting individuals experiencing homelessness in our community. Can the minister provide an update to the House on how our government is supporting organizations like Blue Door in their work to end pandemic homelessness? Thank you.
Well, Minister of Housing.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the honourable member for Richmond Hill for his important question and his advocacy with respect to chronic homelessness. We understand as a government that the pandemic has made worse existing housing challenges for Canada's most vulnerable people. That is why we introduced an investment of $2.5 billion through the Rapid Housing Initiative to create over 10,000 new permanent affordable homes and provided $567 million to Reaching Home so that frontline organizations, like the member mentioned, can fight homelessness and end chronic homelessness on the ground. On this side of the House, we're committed to ending chronic homelessness once and for all.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Nunavut.
The extent of Indigenous language loss is evidence of the deep impacts of colonialism. It is essential and basic part of reconciliation to preserve First Nations, Inuit, and Métis languages. The Indigenous Languages Act was passed 3 years ago by this government, yet little to no action has been taken. Words mean nothing without actions. What will the minister do to ensure that Indigenous languages are supported and protected for now and future generations?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my honourable colleague for her question. Our government is committed to advancing reconciliation through the protection and promotion of Indigenous languages. I personally really appreciated the member opposite's testimony and involvement at committee this past week. We are currently studying with Elections Canada how to move forward on ensuring that Indigenous languages and people who speak Indigenous languages have access to that when they go to vote at election time. I look forward to the conclusion of the study with recommendations, and I very much appreciate the work that that member is doing in this regard.
The Honourable Member for Kitchener Centre.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday's so-called emissions reduction plan sold Canadians a fairy tale. If only we gave the oil and gas industry tens of billions more in subsidies for an unproven technology, the carbon intensity of their oil will magically disappear. We need a climate plan that lines up with what climate scientists tell us is required to hold on to the possibility of a maximum 1.5 degrees Celsius rise in global temperatures. Why is the Prime Minister gambling with big oil on a safe climate future for our kids instead of making transformational investments in proven solutions?
Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the honourable member for the question. And the emissions reduction plan announced yesterday is an achievable roadmap for Canada to reach our ambitious climate targets. That's 40 to 45% below 2005 levels. And, Mr. Speaker, it's getting great reviews from environmental groups to banks to those in the resource sector. Let me read a couple for the honourable member from the Pembina Institute. The Government of Canada's 2030 emissions reduction plan is a significant step forward in meeting the climate moment that Canada and the world face today. Environmental Defence says that the Government of Canada's emissions reduction plan provides the most comprehensive national climate action.
Well, that's all the time we have for question period today. Thanks so much for your interest. We have a point of order from the Honourable Minister of Employment, Workforce Development, Disability Inclusion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to correct the record on an answer I gave earlier when I said we would eliminate student debt. I'd like to correct the record to say that we will eliminate interest on student debt.
We have another point of order from the member for Central Okanagan, Similkameen, Nicola.
Speaker, we had much discussions in QP today, particularly around the Bank of Canada confirming that the carbon tax is inflationary. I have the letter from the Governor of the Bank of Canada, Tiff Macklem, and would like to table it with unanimous consent. I have it in both official languages, so I think if you seek it, you'll find it. We'll have unanimous consent to hear about the inflationary nature of it. And again, thank you to the Member of Parliament for Northumberland, Peterborough South, for asking the question and getting the response.
All those opposed to the honourable member moving the motion to table the document, please say nay. We don't have agreement on that one. There you go. Daily routine of business. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under tabling of documents, pursuant to Standing Order 36-8A, I have the honour to table in both official languages the government's responses to 8 petitions, and these returns will be tabled in an electronic format. And while I'm on my feet, Mr. Speaker, I would move, seconded by the member from Burlington, that the House do now proceed to orders of the day.
So, Mr. Lamoureux, seconded by Ms. Demoff, moved that the House do now No?
It was Ms. Gould.
Ms. Gould.